Hey guys, I'm back here at Mission Fitness Center with Beast Sports Nutrition, and the focus of today's video is all about the shoulders. I'll be hitting some heavy presses as well as a couple of supersets for the back, middle, and front deltoids. But first, let's get started on some stretching and mobility. I'll see you over there. Right, so mobility done. Spent about 3-4 minutes over there, about 20 seconds holding each of those stretches, making use of the resistance bands, some massage balls and some static stretchers, and a little warm up with the kettlebell. Really mobilized my shoulder joint. I feel ready to start my first working set. Got some creatine here, which I've just started adding into my supplement routine. This is gonna help more with sort of my strength and recovery. So no loading phase on this one, just sipping on this during the workout, and then about 10 grams each day, even if I'm not training. First of our exercises is going to be a standing overhead shoulder press using the Olympic bar. My goal here is to move as much weight as possible within the 5 to 8 rep range. So I'm going to spend a couple of sets just warming up, keeping my shoulders and elbows in, therefore I get the most power and strength as I push upwards, and then we'll kind of build up to my maximum weight for 5 to 7 reps, maybe one pyramid down, but this entire workout, straight sets, as heavy as we can, and about a minute's rest in between each set. So I'm gonna start to warm up with just the bar, then load weight up, and about 4 sets will be done and moving on to our next one. Okay, you can see on that one, I use the weightlifting belt. Just this fabric one. The reason for that, it keeps my lower lumbar a little bit more firmer, real good foundation. As I'm pressing that weight, and you'll see all of my lifts except that last one, which was a drop set, my elbows and wrists are all in front. Therefore, I've got a real nice power position to then push up overhead. I'm not fully locking out the arm, and I'm momentarily pausing up at the top so I can feel and flex my shoulder muscles, the delts, get the traps as well, as opposed to simply just pushing the bar up and allowing it to fall back down. There's a definitive up, a pause where I'm flexing and controlling, resisting that weight down. You'll also notice I was bending my knees. Now, this was part of the movement. My goal here is to go heavy. So I'm allowing a slight bend in my knees as that weight comes down to cushion it, and also to give me a bit of a push as I push that bar up. My knees are then straight, not locked out, as I continue pushing up overhead, squeezing, contracting the delts in that top position. This is an exercise that you want to go heavy. If you're not too familiar with it, definitely use your weight belt, and even have a spotter behind you to help keep you rigid, and also to help with the elbows or the bar to get up to full height. 4 sets there. My heaviest one was on that third one, and then the fourth one, I kept that same weight, dropped it down to about 40% less weight, finished on a drop set. And the only difference with this one, I changed my hand position from being in line with the shoulders to a little wider. Reason for that is this one is more of a traditional sort of bodybuilding type movement, elbows out to the side, pressing upwards, whereas elbows in is more of a powerlifting, kind of clean and press move. So use these, find which one works best with you. But throughout this shoulder workout and a lot of my other videos, you'll see that within the same exercise, I'm using a lot of different variations, even though I may not be changing the weight. But great first exercise. We're gonna move on with another power exercise in this one. I'll see you over by the dumbbells. even though we're pretty much replicating the same movement, at least for the muscle, an overhead press. The reason I'm now performing some single arm dumbbell presses, again, keeping it relatively heavy, 6 to 8 reps, no more, is simply for this. Working unilaterally, one arm at a time, allows me to really focus on one muscle at a time instead of trying to get that weight up. And typically we have a dominant muscle, or at least a dominant side. So whenever we do dual arm work, the strongest muscle is always gonna take the lead. That's not the case here. My right side is a little bit stronger, my left side is a little bit bigger. So this allows me to kind of balance it out. And you'll also see that as I'm pushing up, I'm externally rotating my hand outwards, so I have that 90-degree rotation in there as well. Little differences like this will kind of add up to a more complete workout, as opposed to just performing the same exercise with the same hand position through that same movement. So a couple of pointers on this one. I'm leaning slightly over to the opposite side at which I'm pressing upwards. So think of extending the arm, pushing the weight up, almost down the center of that same hip. So have your feet a little bit wider. You don't want to be too narrow. And as we're pushing up, trying to keep it on that vertical x-axis, not allowing that weight to fall back, forwards, or to the side. So if it's too heavy and that weight's starting to fall away from you, lower the weight down, focus on the control, focus on your tempo as well. Get your breathing, exhale as you push up. And as you'll see, a slight pause up at the top, resisting it back down. So it's about a 1 second up, half-second pause, and about 2 seconds back down. 8 reps on each, 2 to 3 sets at most. Now we're gonna move on and start to bring in some deltoid action. We're gonna start on the rear, move around to the middle, and end on the front. See you over there. First 2 exercises, all about power and strength. Now we've moved into more of the conditioning, a little bit more of the endurance, and definitely feeling the burn. These 2 exercises, we start with the bent over rear delt fly. Now you can perform this with dumbbells, you can use the cable, you can perform it with your head or at least the upper body supported on an incline bench. But as far as kind of the fundamentals, I like it just with the free weights and bent over pretty much in the same position as you would when performing a barbell row. So if you're not too comfortable with this position, try it with an incline bench, about a 30-45 degree angle. Rest your chest, chin just off the bench, drop the weight down, and familiarize yourself with the movement before attempting it just freestanding. Couple of different variations with this one. The typical standard form, my hands are in a neutral position, my arm is fixed with a slight bend at the elbow, and what I'm focusing on is driving the elbows up towards the ceiling, and it's the rear deltoid here that is typically doing that work, raising the arm up, much like the pectorals when doing a pec deck or a chest fly. So if you're bending the arm too much, you're actually taking a lot of that effort off of the rear deltoid and bringing it more into the bicep, triceps. So choose a weight where the arm can remain fixed and extend it up, driving upwards with the elbow. Second variation is moving from this sort of horizontal plane to a slight, what I call a gull wing, taking the arm further behind you. If you look at yourself on camera, through video, or even check yourself in the mirror, you can start to see how different deltoid heads are being worked and engaging during these different movements. So again, this goes back to if you're performing multiple sets, which I am, 3 sets, performed back to back, I'm always going to change one variation, if not the weight. With this one, I kept the same weight on all 3 sets. The second exercise, rear delt cable flies. Now, this is pretty much the same movement, except instead of using that free weight, bringing the weights out to the side, I'm using cables, which therefore keeps a consistent level of tension on the muscle throughout the full range of motion. So with my arms up overhead, driving the elbows down to the floor, I get this really nice focused contraction in the rear delts. I'm not using much weight. It's more about the contraction and the engagement of the muscle throughout that motion. 15 reps there, 10, maybe 12 reps with the dumbbells, 3 sets back to back, and about a minute's rest after performing each of the exercises back to back. Shoulders and arms, whole upper body, in fact, it's feeling really nice. A lot of blood pumped into the shoulders. So I'm gonna move on, finish our last superset, and this one is all about the side or middle deltoid, and we're gonna work some front deltoid as well. And there we have it, the end of today's shoulder workout. The final 2 exercises, single arm standing side lateral raise. Now again, I'm going back to performing single arm movements, because I feel I can move more weight if I'm performing both arms together, and I get a slightly longer range of motion, and I feel I can pause and hold, really feel that contraction in the middle deltoid with that single arm. So even though I'm using a fairly heavy weight on this one, I'm still controlling it to the point where I can pause it, I can eliminate any momentum, as opposed to just swinging that weight up and not really using the full efficiency of engaging, contracting, and really working that middle deltoid. So if that's the case, drop the weight down, feel that muscle, pause, eliminate any of that momentum, control it back down. You did see on my final working set though, I added a superset in right before moving on to those front plate lifts, and I performed these seated. I dropped the weight to about half, and then arms out, I've got a nice, almost a 90-degree bend in my elbow, leading with the elbow up. So even though we're holding the weights, all too easy, we start to think about lifting that weight up with the force of our hand. Keep the whole arm complex in that same plane. Wrist, elbow, shoulder, and what we're doing is we're opening out that gate, and I'm driving my elbow up towards the ceiling, both when performing it as a seated dual arm movement and when standing, performing that single arm side lateral raise. It's the elbow that we lead with, not with the hand. At least if you think of that, you get a much cleaner, more precise movement. And then moving on to our second exercise as part of this combo, front plate raises. Now, typically I perform these with a straight bar or dumbbells or a kettlebell, but as I've spoken about in many of my videos, I'm always looking for ways to add some variables into the exercises. So it's still working the same muscle group, the anterior deltoid, this large front section of the shoulder, which, keep in mind, gets worked a lot through a lot of the pressing movements that we do and a lot of chest type presses. So that's why I focus most on the rear deltoids, and then by the end of the workout, I give a little love to the medial and the front deltoid. Okay, that wraps up the end of today's workout. Listen, if you want to find out more about my training, my regimen, my supplements, my nutrition, robriches.com, you can find everything on there. And to find the article relating to this video, if you want to follow it at the gym, follow each exercise, sets and reps, bsports.com, find out more about their creature and all the other proteins and BCAAs and pre-workouts there. And I'll see you guys back here next week here at Mission Fitness Center. We'll be taking a look at another key muscle group. Hope to see you then. Take care.